Hello and welcome to Cut to Reveal, where we talk about editing, storytelling. Today we're gonna talk about editing gear or gear in general, like the stuff that we use to work on our computers. And I'm curious to see and to hear what you have, Piotr. What are you working with? Because I can see you right now, even if our listeners can't. But I can see your mic. I kind of see one screen, one computer, and and I see the keyboard, like which is like an Avid keyboard or a Premiere keyboard, something like that. With the all the colored buttons.
But I guess I want to start with something else. I want to start with the fact that like editing is very cool because you don't need much hardware really to do it. Like all of these things are like nice additions, and they make you more efficient, and they make work more precise sometimes. For example, with a good display, you can be more accurate with colors, and with good headphones, you can be more accurate with sound, right? But all of them are like upgrades that you can do at some point, but you can start just having a computer basically, and like a basic mouse and a keyboard, and you don't need anything else. So that's a cool thing about editing, in my opinion. But yeah, like over years, obviously you build the arsenal kind of the tools that you're using, and and stuff like that, right? Hey, so I don't know. Let me start with maybe headphones, because I think headphones
Okay.
are kind of important, and sound in general. So I have both headphones, and I have also like monitoring speakers, so that I can like both hear how it sounds on headphones and without them on like a stereo output. So for my headphones, I'm using Biodynamics, and we'll put the links in the description, obviously. Do you have Biodynamics as well?
No, I have DT770. I'm checking it right now. DT770 Pro.
Those are biodynamics as well, but you have a closed cap. That's how they call it, I think. So basically, they are like enclosed, and they don't like let the sound out of it, and they don't have like this like mid transparency to the sound, so you can't hear much of the outside world, right?
It's true.
I have the version that like it like allows you to like hear a little bit of what's going on around you, and
So you can hear your kids when they're
yeah, when they're screaming, yeah.
kids around. I wanted to stay away. I wanted to hear nothing.
It's a wise choice. What can I say, right?
All right. And how are you happy with the headphones?
I love them. I think they're very comfortable as well. That's one thing that I think is very important when choosing the headphones, because you will be spending a lot of time with them on your head. So they can't be too tight, for example, and the ear cups can't like press on your ears. If they do, it's very uncomfortable.
And you were talking about your speakers. So what are you working with?
Yeah, and I have like quite cheap monitoring speakers made by a company called Kali Audio, and I bought them because I did some research, and I didn't want to put too much money into that. But I also found that they had like a great reviews and great like a quality to price ratio, right? I've done that research like 4 years ago, I think. So there is something better when it comes to price to quality ratio on the market right now. But back then, like really, it was like the best choice when it comes to like how it sounds versus how much it costs. Yeah.
And do you like when you cut? I'm curious. Are you using a lot of your headphones or more like the speakers? In what situation would you use one or the other?
Yeah. Mostly I use headphones for the convenience of the household, I guess. Because like if I use speakers, then I have to make it loud so that I can hear like all of the details, right? And to be honest, like for like YouTube videos, I usually use headphones only, and I don't even check how it sounds on speakers. But obviously, when I'm working on a short film, then I'm like doing like two passes of like audio edit, right? And like back and forth, basically, even like going back and forth, because I do want to hear how it sounds on the headphones versus the speakers. So yeah, you basically you listen to it on the headphones, do some tweaking, then you take off your headphones,
Yeah, crank it
dial
up
up
and
the volume, right, and listen on the speakers, and do another pass, and then go back, and you're trying to find like a good spot for that.
yeah. I mean, in an ideal world, you would have time to listen to your final cut in like with headphones and with speakers because some people are gonna watch it on their
Yeah,
phone. and some people are going to watch it on TV or on their computer.
Some editors even like do export the files and check how it sounds on the phone as well.
Yeah, yeah, I think Sven was doing that.
Yeah, exactly. If you know that like a majority of the audience will be, consuming it via the phone, then it makes sense. It makes sense to like do like do like an audio pass based on how it sounds on this on the phone. Okay, so what's the piece of gear that you can't live without?
Like the biggest thing I use in editing is my Logitech MX Master Mouse. I heard about that through film editor interview. Was talking about his assistant editor was working with that kind of mouse, and that made him want to use the same. And he was kind of blown away by how like more efficient it was in his editing. And I was quite curious about it because he was saying that you could use a lot of shortcuts that you could put in the mouse. And I had never used, a very like advanced mouse. And so I bought it for my birthday, I think, a while ago. It was maybe like 5, 6 years ago. And I found out that you can actually, there are like 5 buttons that are like you can reach either with your thumb or with any of your other fingers. And you can use them as they are set up in a little software that you have to download from the internet. So you can give like one purpose to every button, but you can put as much as 5 purpose to every button, because you can press the button. That's one thing you can do, and then you can press and move left one thing, move up one other thing, down,
Yeah,
right,
different options for where you move the mouse after pressing on it, right? That's what you mean.
while you're pressing the button. Yeah, and so now I just adjust like every time I go onto another work, onto another station, I take the time to set it up, like to set up my mouse. I download the software and I charge my save of what I like, the setups I have at home. It happened to me a couple of times that I forgot my mouse at home
Uh-huh.
when I was cutting, for example, at the trailer station, and then I had to to work with shortcuts, which was really like I was really angry at myself for forgetting it. It's really, really, really great. So the second thing that I added to that was a Stream Deck Plus. So Stream Deck, a lot of you may know what it is. This one has little knobs that you can turn. And I was actually very interested by that because it's working with sound, and it's really interesting to have knobs and to be able to lower and up. It's in just like rolling your fingers on it. And it's also like you can press the visuals icon. You don't have to press a button, you just touch the screen and it does what you set it up to do. And so it's really time freeing, because like the idea that I try to embrace is you no longer have to touch your keyboard, you no longer have to touch your shortcuts. You can just have one hand on your mouse, and you already like, as I said, like you already have 20 shortcuts, which is like you can do great editing with that. And then on the left hand you have like I'm looking at it right now, and like the buttons and the knobs I use the most would be zoom in and out, so I can just like roll my finger and zoom out. Yeah, on the timeline, sorry, on the timeline, zoom in and out. The volume, so when I click on an audio track, I just like can lower it or just crank it up. And then there's like the one frame button. Like, if I roll it on the left, like,
Yeah, it's called nudging, right? When you move the clip, like, yeah, on the timeline, frame by frame.
yeah, it's really, really freeing. And also I have like cancel and redo. It's often I use that when I'm trying something that I don't know if it's gonna work. I'm trying something and I do like 10 changes on the editing timeline, and then it's like, oh, it doesn't work. I need to go back to what it was, and I just and it takes a second and I'm back to where I was. I don't have to be like Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z.
Yeah, yeah,
Even I,
yeah.
I do have one Command Z like saved in my mouse. It's like I have to click and do left. Like it would take like do the movement 7 times to get to where I was, instead of having on the Stream Deck and just do and be back to where I was.
Mhm.
And they are like, and with the knobs you can click on the knobs and have another option, and you click on the knobs and you can have like many options. I haven't nearly used it at its full potential, the Stream Deck Plus,
Yeah, yeah.
but so far it's been really, really helpful. And it doesn't look like much when you're doing it, but the more you do it, the quicker you get to it, you get at it, and it's really.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you save time doing that. Yeah, definitely. Like, especially if you have like things that you do in your workflow over and over again, then like optimizing the time, like the shortcuts as you said, and also like making presets and like yeah. the stuff I'm talking about in the editing chef, it's all like, adds up and lets you edit faster, and eventually at the end of the day have like higher output, or spend more time on the things outside of editing bay.
Mm.
So that's the goal eventually, right? One of those. You've mentioned the mouse, so I just wanted to quickly say that I have the same mouse also. MX Master. I have MX Master 3. I'm not sure if you have the same
Okay,
version.
I'm checking. Oh, it's I have exactly the same.
Yeah, yeah. And what I love about this as well is that it can be connected simultaneously to three devices. So basically, you can like press one button at the back of the mouse, and you can switch between devices with it. So you can like have it on your laptop, on your um, on like a stationary computer, or whatever. I believe you can also use it with a tablet or whatever, right? So it's
I never had to use that, but are you using it a lot, like that option?
recently I started writing using my laptop. I find myself using less distractions when I'm using the laptop. So I write on the laptop, and then yeah, I basically like press this button and I'm on the laptop with the mouse. So it's
All
useful.
right.
It's useful this way. I'm not doing it very often, but that's an option that I really like, right?
Yeah.
And you've mentioned like the Steam Deck, right? Elgato Steam Deck. That's the name of the company, Elgato. And control surfaces. That's how I believe is like a general name for it. They're useful. They're useful in general, but at the same time, I think it's more important to have a good mouse than a control surface. Even though like a control surface seems to be more sexy in a way. Like it looks cool. You have something that is dedicated just to something, and you can adjust commands and so on. But I've tried different ones. I used Monogram, which was palette gear before. There were some good things about this. I had some time when I was like using it quite a lot, but then I found myself using it less and less. If you have the workflow that can utilize such a tool, then sure, right? It saves you a lot of time. And I had projects where I was using it a lot, but I had some other projects where I was really like using those, like doing those basic commands mainly, and wouldn't run many macros and stuff like that. And then I really like, I'm as efficient with keyboard shortcuts and the mouse as I would be with the control surface. So for those kind of projects, I would usually rarely use the control surface, right? This one is called Toolbox. So this is like a cheaper version of the control surface. I haven't used it a lot, so I don't have like a much thoughts on it. But the one that I used in the past that I like, looking back, I think it was the best experience I had with a control surface, is the one from Tangent Elements. I think Tangent is the name of the company, Elements is the name of the model, I think. And it's an expensive control surface. I didn't have it on my own. It was like in the
Is that a big board?
yeah, it's kind of big. It's divided into three parts. I was using all of those, and it's mainly like for colorists. But I found that, for example, that jog command, so like you've got a wheel that you can move, and you can move the playhead with this wheel basically, instead of the mouse. I had it on Monogram, but I haven't used it on Monogram this way, because it wasn't so, I don't know, it wasn't so smooth, it wasn't as quick, it wasn't as responsive. But with Tangent Elements, like, I don't know, just something about the bearings that they've built into the thing, and the fact that it was like very wide, so you could just put your hand on it, and you wouldn't have to worry that you press anything else accidentally. And it was so, I guess, comfortable to use it, that yeah, I found myself using it all the time when I had access to it.
Yeah, just even like the feel of it felt
Yeah,
right.
it felt right. It felt great.
And are you still using that?
No, because like I only had access to it when I was working in the post production house.
Okay.
I was like the main editor over there, and I had access to it. But like it's expensive.
Did you try to steal it before leaving?
Of course I did. Like, but they caught me. That's why I don't work there anymore. By the way, yeah. No, it's a joke. Obviously, it's a joke, right? I quit over there. I just decided I'm not like developing anymore, and I was doing over and over the same edits. That's why
And you wanted to become a big time
yeah,
director
and I
too.
wanted to become a big time director, and I wanted to become a big time YouTuber. I'm still working on those two things, but I took the steps. Let's call it this way. But like to reiterate the fact, like those are add-ons. I think like having a good mouse is still more important.
Yeah, no, I would tend to agree with that. I didn't get the Stream Deck until a year and a half ago, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And like I don't take it everywhere. I like the thing I take everywhere is the mouse. And I recall that a new producer came at my trailer house where I was working, and she told me, "Oh, can you do like can you fix this and that?" And I was actually with the mouse. I didn't touch the keyboard. I was like ding 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 ding, and it took me like maybe 5 seconds to do like several changes. She was like, "Whoa, that's really fast."
Uh-huh.
And I was like, "I know,
I know. You can have my number.
I'm fast, ladies." A good editor impresses would impress producers and clients, but a fast editor too is impressive to new clients. Like seeing that you can do your a good job quickly
Yeah.
is really a nice. I get a nice feeling for them. Like they know they're in good hand and someone that is experienced. So sometimes when I was trying to be an editor, like trying to be respected as an editor and to gain some experience, I felt so it was not that long ago, but let's say a little while ago. And I felt like, oh, I need to buy the gear to be like the people that I look up to, because that's gonna like people are gonna see me like, oh, you have like I had just the one screen, but if you have two screens, and if you have a stream deck, and if you have the mouse, and if you have this, you have the mic, you, you have the audio interface, like people are gonna be like, damn, he's a professional now. And because if you have if, like it's just how people perceive you um, when you're cutting. As you said, like it's very true. You can be a great editor with like just a basic mouse and still do a great job and have just a one tiny screen. But there's a way of people like have a perceive you if you have like a room dedicated to editing, like we do, like Piotr, you have, and I do too, and having like all that stuff, and they're like, oh,
I
this is
mean,
the real
it
deal.
matters at some point. That's the thing, right? At some point, it matters. That's like, for example, if you're interviewing for the job via Zoom, it matters if you're in the kitchen or not, because like you have very limited time to prove yourself. Even though like sitting in the kitchen can be like Eddie Hamilton, he may be sitting in the kitchen, and like he's like you
Well, Eddie
can't
Hamilton has nothing to prove, right?
exactly, he has nothing to prove. But what I mean by that is that like it doesn't prove anything. The fact that you have the gear, you have the room or whatever, it doesn't prove anything. But still, on the subconscious level, it has like it has some effect on the people that like are making decisions whether or not to work with you. So it has that mass aspect to it, but at the same time, it should never, the lack of it, of any of these aspects, should never be treated as an excuse. Like I had made this like when I moved to this house, right, which was like 3 years ago, almost like yeah, almost 3 years ago. And I made like a studio tour video. I posted it on the channel, and like I had like quite a lot of comments saying like, "Oh, that's so cool, but I don't have this stuff." And
Mm.
man, I edit for over 10 years right now. Like I didn't start with it. I didn't start with any of this, right?
And anybody who takes the job seriously, and you're gonna, yeah, like you're gonna make some money out of it, and then you're gonna invest that money into new stuff. And I recall that video because I remember the like cabinet you have behind you. Like you were saying, oh, I have like
It's
these
ugly, but
cords.
it's useful.
Yeah, exactly. And I do have kind of the same thing just near me, like out of your view, but it's right here near me. And yeah, this is not going to make you a professional when you start out, like buying all that stuff, because you won't know how to use it properly. But when you start to know your craft and you kind of reach the limit with what you can do with the gear you have, that's when you start to upgrade and find out like, oh, I could do this and that with the gear. So it doesn't make, as you were saying, it doesn't make the talent and it doesn't make the editor. But at some point also, like when I do have a director or client like coming in my home, like to take a look at a cut and to give me feedback, it's of course very nice to have a room dedicated to that, that you can sit down, your director in, and you can watch the second screen while you do the editing on one, and you can, and you have the room to talk. And like I had the director from the TV series I'm cutting at my home, and she was like, "Oh, we like we're supposed to have like some voiceover here, or some people like talking in the back in that scene, but we didn't have time to record it." And I said, like, I just took the mic and I said, we can try and do something here. And we just like came up with solution because I had the gear, and that, and which sounded fine because it's like it's a good mic and I have a good audio interface.
Yeah, and you could still do it with a phone. You could still do it with the phone, right? But the
Exactly.
thing is that,
Exactly.
like, throughout time, basically, once you do it more and more, you want to be comfortable. That's the thing. Like, if you're driving a car and you're just driving once a week for groceries, right? Then, like, who cares what kind of, you wouldn't care whether you're driving, like, I don't know, like Fiat Mini or just, like, Corvette or whatever, right? Like, both will work for that, right? But if you're driving daily 200 kilometers, like, the comfort matters then. Like, it's about the comfort.
Especially when you get older. When you get older, you don't want to live the same life as you were in your 20s. Like I didn't care as much about that stuff. I was just angry to learn and to like to try and start and jumpstart my career. And at some point, like you don't want to have to struggle every time you do something.
All right, I have one piece of gear that I don't own, but that I'm planning to get. It's also from Elgato, and it's also a Steam Deck, but it's for your legs. Did you know that they have such a tool?
Oh, no, I heard
It's
about it.
called Elgato Steam Deck Pedal, and it has, like, I think, 4 buttons on it.
I'm thinking like what, like you can do one, maybe three things with
I think
that.
you can do
What's
six,
the
I think,
purpose?
because there are, like, 3 buttons, I think. And I think that you can, like, press and hold. That's another option, I think. So I think you have like 6 commands on it.
What are the things that you would put in there, like the three buttons that are at your feet?
I don't know. Insert paste, ripple delete. I'm not sure. I'm not sure really, but I'm very curious
I'm
about
guessing
this.
it would be, for me, it would be play.
Maybe play. Although I have, like, my thumb on the spacebar all the time, so I'm not sure. But, like, still, I'm very curious about this tool. So I might be getting it in the future. If I do, I will mention it on the
It
podcast.
seemed very gadgety to me, like very
I don't
like
know. I just feel like it might be something that I use all the time once I get it. I feel this way, seriously.
or it could be like the desk. You use it once in a
Or it could
while.
be like the desk, but it's worth checking. Okay, and one piece of gear that I think is also kind of important, and it's a cheap one, so I think it's worth getting it. It's a timer, like a kitchen clock timer or whatever, so that you can set, like, a block of time for yourself. And now, a digression is that I don't use it all the time. I don't use it even daily, but sometimes I do use it. And when I use it, I think it's useful. I think it's useful to constrain sometimes your a task into a time block, and then having such a thing is just useful, I think.
So how would it be different from setting an alarm on your phone? Like
Oh,
it's
it's very
because
different. You have to come on. You have to get your phone. You have to get your phone. Once you get your phone, like, the probability that you will check something, or that there will be a notification that you will just have to check, is so high that, come on, like, the whole purpose of, like, having this, and, like, it costs like $20. I don't know, right? So, like, you shouldn't save on
but
it.
what are the like, I mean, I hear that you're setting like time for yourself, like you want to spend 2 hours editing, for example, but like psychologically, how does that help you?
Yeah. First of all, the phone is not involved. So I am when I'm using that, and by the way, it's not all the time. I very often I get distracted by phone notifications. I'm, like, guilty of that 100%. But sometimes where I am, like, very deliberate with my time, then I will obviously put my phone away, right? So that it's, like, out of my sight, not on my desk. Like, I will not just turn it on the desk so that I can't see the screen. I will just put it
So
away.
if your wife wants to call you to tell you that I don't know, the next house is on
Do
fire.
not disturb feature, right? Has, like, these, like, exceptions that you can make, so it's all good, right? You put the phone away, And then I think it's useful because like you know that you're working under, like it's a ticking bomb in a way, right? You know that it will go off in an hour, let's say, right? You know that it will go off, so you want to make the task before it goes on, right? I think it's psychologically it works this way, I think.
That would make you like more efficient.
More focused.
Like, would you be
Yes.
more inclined into like not being as efficient in your editing? Like that often happens to me. Like when I'm cutting, I would go onto the internet at the same time because I'm rendering something, and that's gonna take me a minute to come back to the editing. And so setting a timer would like, no, I have an hour, so I need to put my to give it my full attention.
Yes. Yes. Basically, I'm not sure if you've heard about this, the Parkinson law. Have you heard about the Parkinson law?
No.
It says that like the amount of time the task takes is the amount, it will be equal or very close to the amount of time that you give to it.
All right.
Okay, so you'll give yourself a task of like writing one page of a screenplay. Okay, that's your task. And if you give yourself a week to do it, it's very likely it will take you a week. If you give yourself 1 hour to do it, it's very likely that it will take you 1 hour to do it. If you give yourself 15 minutes to do it, it's still possible that you will have like a draft, not very good, but a draft during the time.
Yeah. So you're saying that if I give myself 15 minutes to finish the next 5 episodes I need to cut for the
There
series?
are limitations to that. There are limitations to that.
No,
It
I'm
has to
kidding.
be
I'm kidding.
reasonable,
I'm
right?
kidding.
But yes, like I mean, we've all experienced that, right? If you give yourself a lot of time to do it, like, well, for example, when I had these like projects when I was at the university and I was studying like civil engineering, so we had a lot of projects about like constructing something and like doing calculations on like a concrete slab or whatever, right? And drawings and whatever. And those projects, like they took time. They weren't like projects you could do in like 3 hours. It would take you like honestly like from the time you start to the time you stop. If you would be working 100% of the time, it would still take you like, I don't know, let's say 30 hours, 25 maybe, right? Hours of work, of solid work. And really, like if you give yourself a week to do it, then you will find time to like spread those 30 hours in that week. But usually we had usually like 2 months to do it. And what happens? What happens? Like you will wait for 7 weeks just thinking about like doing it, and then you will still do it in a week. But the last one.
And I'm guessing that when that happens, because I think that everybody has already experienced something along these lines. And most of the time, the more time you give yourself to do something, like you're gonna be rushing at the end because you're thinking, I have a lot of time. I have a lot of time, and so you're pushing it back and back. No, I still have a lot of time, and then the very end, you're gonna be, oh, I don't have enough time. You're gonna be
Yeah.
rushing the thing.
And I think actually this is one like a very good piece of advice, and something that I was like, I think I was lucky to learn it during my university days, is the fact that I will always create my own deadline that is sooner than the deadline that the client gives me. So for example, like yeah, my when I was working with this Australian client I had, right, I never missed the deadline, never, because like if they said it needs to be there, it needs to be ready in 2 weeks, I knew I wanted to have it in, let's say, week and 2 days from now, right? Because I knew I wanted to have enough time if something happens in between or if I have an emergency at home, right, to finish it.
Yeah, that's a great way to approach things.
But obviously there are limitations to it, and I think there was a project, for example, where I was like on the very last minute, and the reason for that was because the requirements were, Peter, usually we give you more time. This time it just came out, and we need it tomorrow, okay? And obviously I was like quite like almost late. I was like done at the very last second, basically. But that's because like there are limitations to that, as you said. Like if you have like 5 episodes of a TV series, you you can't just say to yourself like, I'll do it like a month earlier. Then it's just too much. It's just too much work.
Any other piece of gear that you wanted to share with us?
I'm not sure if there is something very important to add to that. And I don't have much more gear, to be honest. Like I have audio interface on my desk. You do as well, and that's something that like connects the headphones and the speakers to the same device, so that you can control or you can listen to both at the same time if you want to, and stuff like that, right?
For me, it's especially for the mic.
Yeah, especially for the mic as well. Exactly. So it's all goes into the audio interface that connects it to the computer later, right? With some preamps built into it and stuff like that. The last thing worth mentioning are displays, I think, monitors, right? And I have two, but like, again, it does not really matter that much. Some people have four, some people have one. I think it's fine to have one if it's
Some
4K.
people have three. Some people have mounted it above the others. I know that I have two, and I enjoy like having at least two because it's when you're cutting, and I guess you have the same experience, Piotr. But when you cut and you have like, for example, Premiere opened up, and you have your picture in one corner, and you have your timeline. It's like
Too
quickly
crowded.
becoming very, yeah, exactly. And so it's nice to be able to have like a second screen so you can put your picture, and when you need to open up like an internet page, like you can do on the second screen, and you can still see your timeline. I know that the two screens I have, so one is a Huawei and one is a Samsung. There are two like widescreen. So I like widescreen because of the timeline. I like to see a lot of my
Yeah,
timeline,
yeah, yeah.
and so I set it up in order to have a lot of timeline because it's just long. And sometimes when you do pancake editing, for example, with Premiere, it's nice also to have these big screens so you can see like a lot of these timelines and be able to like really see what you're working with. So that's something that I really enjoy. But I wondered a little while ago, I wondered about having a screen that would be a vertical screen.
Mhm.
It was especially when I was working on Final Cut, but I guess I could be working like that on Premiere. So I'm able to see my clips. You can like, you have the visuals, like you put in visual mode, and so you can see all your clips. And it depends on how you work, but I was wondering about that. I don't think I'm not going to jump the
I
gun
had I
because
had a vertical setup a while ago. Yeah, it's useful as well, but again, it depends. Like for I think it depends on the workflow and the project, and yeah, and so on, right? But like the last thing I want to mention about displays is that I don't think you need expensive ones. Of course, they're nice. I'm not saying they're not nice, right? And the more color accuracy you have, the better, obviously, right? But the fact is that like when I'm doing something like a short film, usually another person will do color pass anyway. And for my YouTube stuff, I, it's not really that important to be super accurate with the color. I mean, maybe it will come across not as intended, but like I don't think you need to have like a great color corrected monitor for $2,000. For example, this one, like this is a Dell monitor, and I bought it. Uh, Let me think. I think I bought it 12 years ago. So it's like
so it's a
it's
1080p
a
screen.
1080p screen, old screen, and it's fine. It's fine. It's not the main one. This is the screen that I will usually use as a full preview in the cinema mode, basically, kind of, right? So like the full frame on it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it's not color calibrated or anything, but I think it's fine for most of the things that you do, right? And yeah, for some applications it's not okay, but when you're working on those applications, it's very likely that you will have like a dedicated color person anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I very much agree with that. I changed my gear very recently because, again, of my 40th birthday. Now I have two widescreen, but I used to have a 1080p, which was quite old, like around 10 years old. And like most of the stuff I'm doing is still for the internet. So like as you were saying, like color correction, and I was doing color correction, but it doesn't matter as much as when we're doing like, when we're working for television, for example. And when you're working on these bigger projects, you have a team of, you're gonna have a color, like somebody who's gonna take care of the color correction, you're gonna have somebody who take care of the sound. And so it's not that important. And I know that the series I'm cutting, I cut at home and at the production company. And I don't care if the picture, I can see that the picture is not exactly the same at home and there, but it's not my job to be taking care of the color correction.
And also, it's like still accurate, quite accurate. Like it's not like 1% accurate, but it's like 95% there. It's not like you're not, yeah, like you're looking at something completely different.
Yeah, no, it never bugged me personally.
Yeah, the last thought, I guess, is that like getting good audio gear will be much more important for you as an editor than having like a great display. Yeah, so it's better to invest in audio than it is into like a great ASO display or whatever.
Exactly, because sound, as I always say, is more important than
It
picture.
is. It is. You can't argue with that. I mean, maybe you can, but that's for another
But
day.
you would be right.
Just quickly, have you watched something in the last week that you really enjoyed or that you really want to mention?
Yeah, actually, yes. I the movie I watched yesterday, and it's a French movie, and I'm French, so I have to advertise it. It's called Vermine, which is translated in English to infested. It is really good, and just to sum it up, it happens in a building in the projects, and like the main character and his friends and a bit of his family are being quarantined because there's a spider from another country that just escaped from like his bedroom because he has a lot of exotic animals, and it escaped, and it's just like it's growing and making a lot of babies very quickly, and so we're just trying to survive, and it's very well done, and I learned from a friend who had seen in theaters. I saw it on Blu-ray that the director was actually approached by the producers from the Evil Dead movies to direct the next Evil Dead because it was really well done, well directed, very well acted. So it was a really like it's a really tense movie, and it's like since it's like only spiders, like the visual effect looked very good because spiders like don't reflect a lot of light. They're very small and they're all black. So it looks really good in the movie. Like it's really like very creepy because we all have that fear of spiders because that's ingrained in our DNA to be like careful about that stuff about these little creatures, and these are like extremely vicious spiders, and it's so you always like you have that. Even if I'm not afraid of spiders, I'm like I wouldn't want to be in that situation. Anyway, that was a really cool movie then.
I've seen Kramer versus Kramer.
Oh, great movie, I love that movie.
Great movie, very well known, like a classic. I think you could call it a classic. I
Yeah,
think,
it is.
and I had it on my watch list for a long time. It's actually one of the movies that even my father like was like, "Haven't you haven't seen that?" And so like, so I really wanted to see it and finally did. And yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I think it's very well made. I don't think it like left an impression on me from the editorial point of view or anything, but it's just well written and well performed and well directed. I think that's what stands out.
But it's very emotional, and as fathers,
Exactly.
because we are both fathers, and it shows you because it's a story about a wife and kind of an absent father with a young kid there, and the wife saying, "I can't take it anymore," and we don't really know what happens to her. Like she's struggling with life,
Yes.
and that can happen to all of us,
Yeah.
and she kind of wants out her family to kind of refocus on herself, so she just leaves, and the movie is about the father like kind of
Finding himself.
yeah finding himself and bonding with a kid like that he doesn't really know, and that's always like a movie I think about when like spending time with your kids, and that's something that I struggle with, and I try to be closer to my kids, and I often think about that movie and how I wouldn't want to be in the situation that the father is in at the beginning of the movie, and it's really a touching movie and really a kind of devastating and touching because it's really beautiful, and it's a very humane and real movie. Like you can really feel that it's that took inspiration from their own lives, and because I was such a fan of the movie, I remember at the time when I had it on DVD, I listened to the making of the movie, and when they were writing the movie, Dustin Hoffman, the director, and I think the screenwriter were together in a hotel room talking about like what the movie should be about, what the relationships should be about in that movie. And that's why I guess it feels so real, and makes such a beautiful and touching movie. and it's not a tearjerker. It doesn't try to make you cry. It's just touching and beautiful.
Yeah, it's trying to be real, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really beautiful movie.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we've reached the end.
Yes, please leave us reviews.
And next time, I'm guessing that Ricky's gonna be back.
Ricky's gonna be back for sure. Yeah, he will be excited in his new house.
All right.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah, take care. Bye.